You're listening to The Bird Bath. Welcome back to The Bird Bath. Each week we scrape the surface of the news you need to know, so let's get into it. Our top story this week came out right at the beginning of last week. Some of you might have heard about it, but I've been doing a little bit more digging to see if we can really figure out what's going on. My Pet's Wellness shut down without any warning signs for the staff as well as the clients. This was something that happened early last week. Employees received an email, some claiming that it came at even 3 o'clock in the morning, telling them that their practice had been closed and that they weren't going to be having a place to show up for work the next morning. Unsurprisingly, a lot of people in those clinics were completely shocked. And from reading through some different comments and looking at what people had said, many practices were told to simply close the doors and lock up without any additional plans in place for dogs or pets that were boarding, ongoing treatments that patients were going through, as well as a lot of other things. But in the letter that My Pet's Wellness sent out, they said, "It is with heavy hearts that we share that My Pet's Wellness has officially closed all locations effective immediately. This difficult decision was made late last night due to an unexpected and overwhelming financial situation that left us with no other option but to shut down operations right away. We are absolutely devastated. Our team has poured everything into this mission to care for your pets like they were our own, and we are heartbroken for the clients, patients, and team members impacted by this sudden closure. Thank you for trusting us with your beloved pets over the years. Thank you for your loyalty, your kindness, and for being part of our MPW family. We are deeply sorry that we didn't get the chance to say goodbye the way we would have wanted. With love and gratitude, the My Pet Wellness team." Now, I would tag them in this story, but the story gets even a little crazier here. The team has gone through and actually deleted all of the LinkedIn pages for the My Pet Wellness locations. They've deactivated the Facebook groups and Facebook pages for different My Pet Wellness locations. And they've even gone as far as taking down any of the content on the website. If you go to mypetswellness.net, you actually get a site here that says My Pet Wellness has ceased operations. It's just a plain text page now. It's no longer the branded information. They say that we regret to inform you that My Pet's Wellness will be ceasing all operations immediately. They say that they've sent out all of the clients' records on the 13th or 14th of last week, and that any animals that are currently there will be continued to be taken care of through the end of their reservation. Now, I did go through Reddit and some other forums here and found that quite a few of the locations claim that they were told to just close up with animals still in the clinic. Again, I was unable to verify that. I've reached out to different partners, both at Cold Bore Capital and additionally, the former CEO, Brian Ham, for My Pet's Wellness, has deleted his LinkedIn page, so unable to contact him through that format as well. Kind of a crazy story. It's been a while since we've had one completely shutter their doors, and usually we get a little bit of a heads up. I had some people say that they were getting notes of the old fuzzy scandal or craziness that we saw a few years back, but the big difference here is that these are brick and mortar locations. I can still, and I have, drive down the street to see a My Pet's Wellness clinic closed with no one there, but still a full vet clinic there. So kind of wild stuff to be able to try and wrap our minds around. If you were impacted by this, let us know. I know it's really difficult for people to be able to search for those who had jobs, and when the social media pages and the LinkedIn pages and things are taken down, you can't tag the company in a way to try and find those impacted employees. So let us know. I know there's a lot of people that are looking to hire talented and quality people that are now without jobs. Our next story is kind of an update on the home delivery market. It was spurred on by a press release from Petco. Petco announced that they're the latest large retailer in the US to partner with Uber Eats. A lot of different providers across the country are looking to partner with the food delivery companies, because they've got the infrastructure for that last mile, as a way to be able to utilize the inventory in their stores and reach clients at home. It's a desire to compete against the same day delivery and rapid deliveries that people are getting with Amazon, as a way to be able to still attract clientele without having them leave the store. PetSmart is another company that has partnered with Uber Eats. They've been providing delivery in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico since 2023. And also Mars sells their different brands of foods, Pedigree, Royal Canin, as well as Whiskas, available through Instacart since 2022. So it's not a new idea, but it's definitely something that we're seeing more and more of. DoorDash announced a partnership with Pet Supply Plus. So all of these different companies with brick and mortar locations and different footprints are looking for ways to be able to tackle the e-commerce space. Obviously, Chewy is one that continues to rank extremely high in the customer satisfaction world and is one of the ones to perhaps pilot the backwards way to go about this. They started with the incredible e-commerce footprint and have been growing with their brick and mortar clinics as a way to provide care. They've done over 1 million telemedicine appointments through their telemedicine portfolio, as well as continue to grow what they're doing with clinics opening in Austin and all over the country. Now, when I first started reading some of these things, it was interesting because these are all talking about retailers reaching to the providers or to the pet parents. So things like food, toys, over-the-counter items. But a few years back, a company that might ring a bell, and hopefully still does, despite having shuttered up, was Vitus Vet. Vitus Vet had previously offered VetShip RX through their partner at Shipped. And when that came out, it was a really interesting idea. It was one that I found pretty interesting as a way to tackle the last mile delivery for pet parents that are looking to get those prescriptions directly at home. Some of those that we know are always trying to figure out the e-scripting to be able to fulfill those prescriptions through the pharmacies. But the big hurdle for a lot of practices to be able to increase their overall margins and their throughput of their inventory in the pharmacy is actually getting people to come in and pick up the prescription if they don't have it in stock, or if it's written after or a carry-on or a refill or anything like that. A lot of that business is going to the online providers, which still involves the veterinarian signing off on the prescription but not seeing the revenue. So Vitus Vet had previously put together VetShip RX. Obviously, they're no longer in business or participating in that, but still an idea that's kind of interesting to look at and explore and see if anyone else is going to be able to find a way to tackle that pharmacy delivery last mile directly from a veterinary clinic. Now, I know you all might be getting tired of hearing about things going on overseas, but this one, well, I found it interesting, so it's my show. And what we're talking about here is the Royal Veterinary College. They're having some trouble or potential issues with their U.S. accreditation. So the accreditation in the U.S. goes through the AVMA's Council of Education, the COE. And one of the standards there is the requirement that 80% or more of the students graduates must pass the NAVLE. And we talked about this on our Substack when we talked about the statistical mind games, perhaps, of the exact binomial confidence interval. But by any measurement, the Royal Veterinary College in the UK is not having enough students passing the NAVLE, which is kind of the gold standard of what the COE is requiring for people to be able to consider their college to be accredited. Last March, the Royal Veterinary College was placed on a probationary accreditation, and it was actually extended just this March. So the numbers are not looking good yet. They were, over the past 3 years, 71%, 63%, and 60%. And it's interesting. This was one that kind of gets at the core, perhaps, of what are we teaching versus what are we testing. In a panel that we did at VMX, We had a really interesting student and some veterinarians that were talking about the fact that there were multiple questions about caring for peacocks. Well, it's not the most important animal that everyone cares for on a daily basis, but having 2 questions that you need to know the answer to about care of peacocks might not be exactly what people are testing for. I took to Reddit to read a little bit more about this because Reddit has a lot of great information. If you're not reading it and trying to figure out what's going on, you're missing out. But one of the students posted a letter that they had received and were concerned about the ability to be able to practice in the US. And the idea that sort of came up through the conversation was that US colleges know and have obviously the necessity to be able to stay accredited for US students to practice post-graduations, whereas the Royal Veterinary College does not exclusively rely on NAVLE students' grades or passing rates to be able to be accredited in their own practicing country in the UK. And so it was one of those things that people talked about the different style of education and wondered if the education that's set up to get people to pass the NAVLE produces the highest quality veterinarians, or if teaching for practical competencies and improving the skill set in clinic is really the piece there. One of the commenters wrote a great comment. They said, "The NAVLE is a ridiculous examination based on memorization of facts about very particular topics. The RCVS is working towards changing the UK school curriculums to be even more first opinion, real life scenario based than it is even now, which I feel is an even further departure from the fact-based NAVLE." They also use some profanity later on in there, but you know what? Let's keep that to Reddit. So, interesting story here. Obviously, always want to keep up to date on what's going on across the pond, and we'll see if the Royal Veterinary College does improve those numbers, or if US students stop finding that as an option for them to go and learn there and with the intention of coming back to the US to pass the NAVLE. Our final story is kind of a silly one, but I still liked it. If you were with your family over Easter, you might have also been partaking in something else that happened on Sunday, which was April 20th, also known as 420, which the Pet Poison Helpline sent out a press release reminding everyone that it's the annual unofficial celebration for those who partake in medical or recreational marijuana. The Pet Poison Helpline went through all their different cases and found one that they thought really stuck out. I'm going to read it straight to you here. Although dogs are far more likely to have an accidental marijuana exposure, according to our case data, there was one recent call that gave us goosebumps. Earlier this year, we received a call from a woman whose pet goose Gertie had quickly gobbled up a joint that had accidentally dropped on the floor. The pet owner called us, and after analyzing the situation, we recommended she take Gertie into the veterinary hospital for monitoring and treatment. So Gertie ended up having just a great time, from what I can tell. They brought her in all types of munchies and she recovered fine. But it was a great sign from the Pet Poison Helpline to make sure that if you do partake, or if you're in a home that partakes, it's extremely important to know that it can still impact your pets. Dr. Renee Schmidt, who's a senior veterinary toxicologist and director of veterinary medicine at the Pet Poison Helpline, said there are currently only 4 states in the country that don't allow some form of THC usage. So the chance of your pet encountering THC are very real. So whether or not you're the one that brings it in the house, or it's just that really, really chill cousin that comes over for the holidays, make sure to keep your eye out, take care of your pets, and always keep in mind that Pet Poison Helpline is available to care for you, and bring them to your local veterinarian to make sure that your dogs, cats, and geese are getting the best care possible. For more on these and other stories, join us by subscribing to our Substack. And don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing and rating the show. For the Bird Bath, I'm Ryan Leach. See you next week.